that prayer. And so today we are in Genesis chapter 39. And, due to the holidays, we haven't had a chance to gather for the last couple of sessions. And, and one of the things about the holidays is you get a chance to just be around with friends and family and loved ones. And it's kind of interesting because in this book of Genesis, this is especially at the stages that we are now, this is what we are talking about. We're talking about family. And you saw the first family of Adam and Eve, and then the struggles that they had in their family. All right, and that's one of the things, that family is a place where things are good, but unfortunately, families are often also places where things are what? Bad. All right, so Adam and Eve had their family, and then you had one brother do what? Kill the other brother. All right, then we had Noah and his family, and then we see they're dealing with the corruption in their society. So you could have a good family, but then you could be in a bad place. But guess what? God is what? Still with you. And so God said, well, I'm going to move you from this place. And they did that. And then Noah had the situation where he had a problem with Ham coming in and discovering his nakedness. And we talked about what that all meant. And so then there was a curse put on a family member, Canaan. This is family member. We're talking about family here. And then we see Abraham being told to leave his what? His family. By who? By God. So oftentimes we think that God is always going to do things a certain way. There may be a time when God will actually tell you, you need to put a difference right now between you and the rest of your family. And then him and Sarah go together, and they're married, and they're trying to have a family, and they're having difficulty. And so, and then she comes up with an idea, and then she's bringing in Hagar. Now, all of a sudden, Hagar is brought into the family, and then that's not what God wanted. So we see all this aspect, and then we see Isaac, and then he gets married, and then he has two children, and Esau and Jacob, and they are brother and sister. They're two brothers, but they are what? Totally different from each other. One's a so-called mama's boy. The other one's kind of like, the strong hunter, athletic type of guy. And then there's the issue there, because they're struggling over who's going to get the birthright, who's going to get the inheritance. And so does that go on in family? Or who's going to get mama's ring? Or who's going to get daddy's stereo? Or who's going to get the car? Who's going to get that happens in what? In family. All right. And then we see that Isaac had Jacob. And Jacob didn't have a problem starting his family with one of his wives. But wait a minute. Did I just say one of his wives? Mm-hmm. So that means he had what? More than one. And that wasn't what he planned. Because his uncle, another family member, tricked him. And the woman he thought he was going to marry, he didn't get. Because his uncle. Uncle is part of the what? Family. It's part of the family. And so now he's got the two wives, and Leah's having children, and the woman that he really loves is not having any. And so then Rachel decides she's going to bring in the concubine, kind of like what Sarah did. She's going to do the same thing. And so now you bring in that person into the family. And then when Leah saw that was happening, she got her competitive spirit. She goes, well, I'm going to bring a concubine in too. And so you got all this, and now you got all these individuals that are part and make up the family of Jacob. And so now then we see that his kids, he had 12. And now they're growing up, and they're starting their own families. And one of his children, Judah, his wife dies. And then We saw last week the story where he went and married. Well, first before the wife died, he went and married a Canaanite woman, and she had the children. But then God killed one child because he was evil. Then that child had to go and marry his wife, the next brother. Remember? And then he said, "I'm not going to give this woman, any children." And then God saw that, and God killed him. And then so Judah said, "Well, I'll give you my last son when he's old enough," but he never did. And then she went out and tricked him. Remember that story? And the next thing you know, she's pretending to be a harlot, and he's laying with her, and now she's impregnated by what? By him. Yeah. All this is happening where? In the family. Right? So we just got to keep in mind. Right? And so we kind of looked at that, and then we saw that she bore 2 children. And so that's kind of like where we are now. Also keeping in mind that Jacob did have 12 children, and one of the 2 youngest ones were actually children that God allowed to be born to Rachel, the woman that he loved, Joseph and Benjamin. When Benjamin was born, what happened to Rachel? She died. So now she's gone. But now Joseph is the favorite of what? Of the father. And so, and he don't make no heirs about it. And all the other brothers, what? Know about it. Because you got some brothers that are not that they're not children from Rachel, and they're not children from Leah. They're children from the concubines. And then if you're the children from the concubine of Leah, well, you know that you were looked at as like, you might get a bone or scrap thrown to you every now and then as far as, what you're going to get inheritance-wise. Well, everybody knew that the lion's share was going to go to Joseph. Well, they decided, no, we're going to get rid of this guy. And so they decided they're going to do what? Sell him. And they sold him to the Midianites and to the Ishmaelites. And so that kind of like, in a sense, taking it from a standpoint of using the title of family and then filtering what we studied to this point through, it brings us to where we are now. All right. So let's take a listen to Genesis chapter 39.
Chapter 39. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had put into his hand. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person, and well favored. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said,
Lie with me.
But he refused, and said unto his master's wife,
Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath to my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?
And it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her, to lie by her, or to be with her. And it came to pass about this time, that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within. And she caught him by his garment, saying,
Lie with me.
And he left his garment in her hand, and fled, and got him out. And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand, and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house, and spake unto them, saying,
See, he hath brought in an Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me, and fled, and got him out.
And she laid up his garment by her, until his lord came home. And she spake unto him according to these words, saying,
The Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in unto me to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled out.
And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying,
After this manner did thy servant to me.
that his wrath was kindled. And Joseph's master took him, and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph, and shewed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison. And whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him, and that which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. Chapter 39.
All right, so now we're going to notice one thing here that I want you to notice in this chapter, that the Lord said in his word here that the Lord was with Joseph. All right, the Lord was with Joseph. Now, here is the thing that we, and I will definitely say I, have to learn day by day as I go through your trials, your ups and downs. That God is what?
With us.
He's with you. All right. Because now I want to emphasize that, because I want you to look at what's going on in Joseph's life. All right. Now he's sold to Potiphar. I'm sorry. First of all, he was sold to the Midianites and the Ishmaelites by who? His brothers. Wait a minute. So his brothers are treating him what? Awful. They want to what? They really want to kill him. But wait a minute. It says in this chapter several times, the Lord was with Joseph. Doesn't that sometimes make you pause and just think? Because oftentimes when bad things happen, people want to say, well, God, where are you? And God can point to a verse like a chapter like this and go, I'm with you. See, oftentimes we have made synonymous wonderful things happening to you, which equal God's with you. Bad things happening to you means God's not with you. We have a whole doctrine that says, well, you know that God is for you when you what? When you are prospering. Now, keep in mind, in this same chapter, with all the stuff that is going to happen to Joseph, it says that Joseph was what? Prospering. But wait a minute, how are you prospering when you just been sold into slavery?
Because God is with him.
God is with. Wait a minute, how are you prospering when you've been lied on and thrown in jail? And it says that he what? Prospered.
In jail.
So that's the overall look, and I think we need to kind of look at that from those type of lenses and see God is with you regardless. If you have allowed your heart to be receptive to the Spirit of God, and you have God as your righteousness, the Lord my righteousness, I don't bring my what? Own righteousness. I allow God to bring righteousness in me. If you have that relationship with the Lord, then you are what? Prosperous. Well, man, I'm as broke as I can be. It don't matter. You're prosperous. My body aches. I'm sick. I got all kinds. You are what? Prosperous. My kids are acting crazy. You are prosperous. All right. My job just laid me off. You are prosperous. Now, that don't sound like something that you can write on paper and give to the average person and prove that statement. Because it's not a statement of logical, mathematical circumstances. Because see, when you're broke and you say that I'm prosperous and you go to the bank account, the accountant and the debt collector, they're going to say, you are not prosperous. You are broke. You are in debt. Busted, however way you want to say it. And are they wrong from their perspective? No.
They're 100% right.
They are right. But what perspective really matters? It's God's perspective. And somehow we, as followers of the Lord, need to learn to exercise more of a vision of what God says and what He does and what He is calling it versus what our society and our culture calls it. Well, have we heard that before? Of course we have. The scripture tells us we should walk by faith, not by sight. The things which are seen are not as important as to what the things which are not seen. The spiritual things are more real than the natural. We can talk about that on, but I think you get the point that I'm trying to pull out of this chapter here, is that we have to make sure we are evaluating our circumstances properly based on what Scripture says, not what our culture says. Because our culture will tell us, the truth from a natural standpoint. So when you look at this, and as we itemize it now bit by bit, it says, and Joseph was brought down to Egypt. All right, well, that's a way of saying it. He was brought down to Egypt. He went from where he was with his father down to Egypt. Egypt is always considered a type of what?
Not a good place.
A type of sin. So he's brought into a sinful place, a sinful atmosphere, or sinful culture. What kind of culture are we living in today?
Sinful.
Right. So Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guards, an Egyptian. So he was brought to Egypt and was bought by an Egyptian. All right. Brought him for his hand from the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down hither. All right, so he's in Egypt. He's been purchased by Potiphar. Potiphar's job is he's the captain of the guard. So he's the one that is over people that watch other people. All right. So Joseph is brought into an area where he is now working for the chief watcher. We live in a society today where everybody's being what? Everybody's being watched. Facial recognition cameras are everywhere. Everything that you do, everything that you search for, anything that you do online, it's being what?
Watched.
And there is nothing that you can do on a computer system that is not logged somewhere. Whether people can get to it or not is another question, another comment, or another statement. But it has been recorded. And a profile of you is there. And Google, you think you searching Google? Google is searching you. All right, so you always got to keep that in mind when you're doing it.
That's right.
All right, and so and Google, they created that browser called Chrome. And so Chrome, Google's browser gathers all the information, and what they decided was say, well, we're gathering this information, but people are very cautious because they know. People are not idiots. They know that we can see them. How can we really find out what people are really like? What people really want to do? We got to give them the feeling that they are safe and nobody can see it. So they created in Chrome a subset of the browser. I forgot what it was called. I got it. What is it called? Let's see if I can find it on here. Here it is. Incognito.
Yeah.
All right. So that means you can log in the incognito mode, which says we don't store no cookies, we don't keep no information. The minute you come out of that browser, all the information, all your search stuff is deleted.
It is not.
Well, it is deleted from your computer, from your computer, but not from their system. So what they're thinking is, Now that you feel
Like you're free.
let's see what you're really going to search for. So that's how they find all the people to search for how to kill my husband, how to kill my wife, how to get away with
How to make a bomb.
right? And all that other stuff. And so you get all those different things that people want to do, how to make poison, and then you got all the seedy stuff, how to cheat and not get caught, how to do all this other stuff, and all that's in there, and you thinking, well, ain't nobody gonna know what I'm doing. Yes, they do. So, and I bring that up because we're living in the world of the watchers. We have the keepers of the guards. That's where we are. Joseph was sold to Potiphar, the captain of the guard. He's the one in charge of watching other people, especially the people whom they find that they want to keep incarcerated. Well, guess who's incarcerated here? We don't have jails of metal bars, but we got jails of social culture. We have jails of financial inabilities. We have jails of racial barriers. There's a lot of different jails that people are in. And so you always got to keep that in mind. So when you see him here being sold to the captain of the guard, it's very similar to a lot of the circumstances that we are in. All right? Verse 2, it says, look at this. So he was sold as a slave to Egypt. And look at verse 2. And it didn't even say but, as to say, well, I know that's kind of bad, however, God is with you. No, it just says and, like as a continuation. And the Lord was with Joseph. Look at that. And he was a what? Prosperous man. But wait a minute. Isn't he a slave? But he's a what? Prosperous man. Can you be a prosperous man and be a slave?
Yes.
How does that happen?
Slave to this world.
Well, it happens because you are still being moved and guided by the will of God. See, you're prosperous when the true prosperity is when you are in the will of God. You can be extremely rich financially and be outside of the will of God and be a debtor. Have a debt that you can't, because see, what's the greatest debt that there is? Sin. And who has enough money to pay the sin debt?
No.
So wait a minute. So what you're telling me that if you are saved and you know the Lord as your Savior and He has given you His righteousness, there's nothing in this world that can make you unprosperous. You are always what?
Prosper.
You're always prosperous. You're always going to be on the gain side. So something to keep in mind. So it says, and the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master. He was in the house of his master because he has a what? A master. Why? Because he is a slave. He was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. All right. So he's a servant of an Egyptian or of a sinful culture. Okay. And his master saw that the Lord was with them. So now, even that, the sinful culture can see something's different what? About you.
Joseph.
All right. He saw something was different about Joseph. And that the Lord made all that he had to prosper in his hand. So what? Even though we live in a bad culture, one of the things that make good shine even in a bad situation is an individual that has what? God in him. So you could be at a bad school, but you can be what? Have God in you. You could be at a bad job and have God in you in turn. You could be in a bad family and a bad relationship and have God in you and what? Allow the whole circle, the family, the relationship still will what? Prosper. Why? Because everybody's good? No.
No.
Because God is with you. So Joseph is allowing that to happen. All right. one of the things, if you compare Joseph to, say, like David, you don't see too many cries out here in Joseph. Although we know that he cried to his what? We're going to find out later. He cried to his what? His brothers when they went to go sell him. He said, don't do this. But right here, nothing recorded about him crying or complaining. So Joseph is going about doing his work. He recognized, and here's another thing. Joseph recognizes his situation, and he's trying to, and you heard this phrase before, he's trying to make it what? The best of a bad situation. Wow. Look at verse 4. And Joseph found grace in the sight, and he served him and made him overseer over his house. So he became, in his own area, though you are a slave, I'm going to make you an overseer of what's going on in this house. So I can go do my job. I can go be the captain of the guard, and I don't have to worry about what's going on here. I can allow you to handle that, right? And all that he had put in his hands. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the what? Egyptian. Look at that. So God blessed Potiphar. So now Potiphar's doing well. Why? Because of Joseph. He blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. That's how you know God is with you. So you're in a bad situation, but you and the bad situation is rising. It's getting better. Are you still a slave, Joseph? Yes. But you're not looked at like a slave. You are looked at. That's your title. That's your job description. But people see you, they see more than what you do. They see who you are. So you can have a job that's not all that prestigious, but people won't identify you as that job. You're just a dishwasher. You just a this. But you find out, wait a minute, but he's more than just a dish. He may wash dishes. That's how he gets money. But he's more than, there's more value to him than that. There's more value to her than that. And what
find more respect.
You find more respect. And this world will see that. You got a lot of people that right now are not going to, don't want to have nothing to do with God and Jesus or knowing the Lord. But when they do come around to wanting to know, guess what they're going to look for? They're going to look for you. Mm-hmm. Because you've already shown that. So right now, they may tell you, I don't want to hear none of that Jesus stuff. Mm-hmm. But when they get to a point where they do want to hear it, mm-hmm. they're going to be looking for you. Yeah. When Potiphar got to the point where he wanted to do something within his house, he was looking for Joseph.
Mm-hmm. Where's Joseph?
All right.
Yeah, see that right there, that's just like I was telling Haywood the other day. That's just like how my cousin Carl is. Mm. When he's hurting, when he's in pain, when he wants something, call Jesus. Mm. When he gets better, it's back to Allah.
Look at that.
and I get on his case. And, he'll hang the phone up on him. Mm. And I tell him, because he got hurt crossing the street with his walkie. He fell. Mm. He broke his hip. Mm. So his whole thing is right now, he wants God to help him get some money for the accident. Mm-hmm. And I keep telling him, I said, man, that's not how it works. And he says, oh, man, I said, listen. I said, you only call on God when you want something, when you're hurting. But then once you're better, you're back to this other thing. Mm-hmm. I don't call it, I just say, that's what I tell myself, you're back to this other thing. Mm-hmm. And I always bring up to him, like with you eating pork. Mm-hmm. Like you say, you can eat anything if you bless it. Mm-hmm. But you can't tell me when you put it on a shopping list that it needs to be blessed. No, you're actually going out and buying this because this is what you want. Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't eat pork, you don't go shop for it. Right. And that's what I try to explain to him. Mm-hmm. I said, so see, you using God, you're trying to use, like Haywood always told me, people try to use God to their advantage when they need something. And I tell them, I say, it's not going to work for you.
Yep. And Joseph is a vessel, and Potiphar, see, Potiphar is not saying, well, Joseph, tell me about your God so I can be blessed like you. He's just saying, dude, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. Right? Because things are working well. All right. All right, well, let's keep going, because Potiphar ain't the only one that's noticing Joseph. Verse 7. Actually, let me finish reading verse 6. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had save the bread which he did eat. So that's basically saying he wasn't worried about anything. All he was concerned about was what kind of food I'm going to have to eat today. Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. All right, so he was highly respected. Verse 7. And it came to pass after these things that his masters, wait a minute, his what?
His master.
So Joseph is still a what? He's still a slave. That his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph. And she said, lie with me. Now let's put the brakes on. Aren't we reading the Bible?
Yes, we are.
Now we're not even out the first book yet. And if you were to make a TV series or a movie based upon the stuff that we have talked about and the Bible has brought forth from this point, you couldn't make it G-rated. You couldn't. Not to include all. I mean, you could make it G-rated, but you got to take some of this stuff out.
Yeah, you got to take some, right.
But if you want to include everything that we've talked about, from Adam and Eve to Noah and his daughters and what happened with that and Judah and his daughter-in-law and Noah with his son coming in. I mean, you look at the Bible, it's not trying to hide it from us. This is talking about what really happens. All right. So if you want to talk about what really happens, and because sometimes it seems like, okay, how do I teach this? Because you don't want to. And I'm like, wait. And I remember I had to stop myself because I'm trying to filter the Bible because I don't want to talk about certain things. And I said, no, you know what? I'm not going to do that no more. We got to talk about how it really is, because you know what? This is what happens in real life.
Right. Nothing new under the sun.
There's nothing new. So therefore, if it's in the Word, then we got to do what? Discuss it. I try to say, well, we're going to discuss something like when we had to discussing about, Lot's son. I said, well, I'm going to bring up some points and stuff that, we'll let you know. We're going to bring it out. But this is what it is. And so we had another situation like this. So here's a woman that's married to who? Potiphar. This is Potiphar's what? Wife. And she's casting her eyes upon who?
Joseph.
All right. Now, what's going on here? What is Joseph? Joseph seems to be what? Prosperous. He seems to be intelligent and smart. All those things can be alluring. Right? And don't have a picture of what Joseph looked like, but I would gather that he probably looked fairly good. He's a young man too. Right? And she's seeing that he's running the place better than he's running it.
Right, better than the husband.
Now, in this culture, the woman would be able to rise as far and as high as the what?
Man.
The husband could go. And she would have status based upon that. That's just how it was. She couldn't have her own status. So she's looking at it from a standpoint that this is really the guy. My husband is just, he's got the title. But this is the guy that's doing this.
And her husband's probably not there either.
And the husband is not there.
Right.
So she jumped, she got right. So then, because Joseph is there and he's running it, the husband gets to do what? Take all these little field trips. He get to go. All right. Well, don't you got to take care of this? All right, I ain't got to worry about that. Joseph got that. I'm out of here. So he gets to go hang out with the what? With the boys, with the fellas. With he could take all the trips he want to take. She's there watching Joseph run the house. All right. So let's see what happens. She cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, what? Lie with me. Now, see, that lie with me is an important aspect, because what that does is it builds a connection that doesn't really ever get broke. and people, I think, in our age today, don't recognize that that when you are with a person, whether you end up marrying them or not, there is a connection that is made that never ever truly gets broke. It may not build to multiple connections or multiple situations or social gatherings that you are with, but you still have that connection. I like to think of it like what's called quantum entanglement. And in quantum entanglement, when you have entangled particles, no matter what you do, once those particles become entangled, no matter what you do with those particles, you can send one to one side of the galaxy and another one to the other side of the galaxy. What happens to one influences in a mystical way, science does not know how, instantly the other one. And it happens instantly. It happens even faster than the speed of light, because if you can have one at 12,000 light years away from the other one, when that quantum particle spins left, the other particle instantly will spin right. And when one spins up, the other one will instantly spin down. How does one get that information to the other? Okay, at this point in 2019 in December, our quantum physicists and our scientists do not know how that happens. But quantum particles are part of the basic makeup of everything, including what? Us. So any connection is always a connection that is more entangled than we think.
So it's like a magnet?
Well, you could think of it like a magnet in the sense that they have that charged connection, but it's not magnetic. But it's like that. It has something to that effect. And the reason why I can say I'll say it's not a magnet, because we understand magnetism. We don't understand quantum entanglement. So it's something other. It's something, and you say, okay, then what is it? Well, that's the $64,000 question. That's what scientists and physicists are trying to discover. What is it that is moving? Because if we can discover that, that means then we could have faster than light communication. Because see, our communication right now travels at the speed of light. But if we can understand quantum entanglement, we could then understand how you can get information instantaneously, no matter. And so now space or distance becomes a non-entity.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? So you don't have to worry about, because see, to get
You don't have to do nothing in between.
nothing in between. It's just instant.
Right.
It's instantaneous.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Well, now I'm saying all that to say that whole lie with me, a lot of times in our day and in our culture, and maybe in hers, we don't think too much about that. People just hang out and they go, hey, and that's just the culture we have, in the day that we live in here in 2019. But it is something. And fortunately, Joseph recognizes back then that that's a problem. Joseph probably was clever enough from a natural and social and cultural standpoint to do this, and from Potiphar's awareness to be able to what? Get away with it. Because he could probably, maneuver stuff. So it wasn't a thing of, well, if I do this, I'm going to get caught. He recognized that it was what? Wrong. And that's more important.
Right.
Because see, there's a lot of things people would do if they didn't think they'd get caught. I watched a movie the other day. It was with Queen Latifah and a couple of other people, and it was about these women that worked at the Kansas City Federal Reserve, where they took a bunch of money and they were burning it. And this is the place that destroyed money.
Right.
And they're like, we're taking all this money, millions and millions and millions of dollars, and we're shredding it and burning it. You ever think about taking a couple of dollars? All right. And so the whole movie was based upon how they were going to figure out how to steal some of that money. And so you're sitting there looking at it, and it's like, so if you at that job, and you all of a sudden, you got into debt and everything, would you think if I could grab $10,000 or $20,000 and get away with it, I'd do it? All right. So that's across your mind. Is that part of what you think? I'm not going to do it because I don't want to get in trouble. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to get caught. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to be embarrassed. Okay. But would you do it if you knew you wouldn't get caught? If you knew you wouldn't get embarrassed, would you still do it? So those are questions that you have to ask yourself. See, I'm looking at this and I'm surmising here. It doesn't tell us that. But I think Joseph probably felt, if I wanted to get over on Potiphar, I could. I could be with his wife and he wouldn't even know. He don't know anything anyway. It says he knew nothing. Only thing he knew was what? The bread he was eating. All he knew was what he had for dinner. He didn't know nothing else. So, but look at what Joseph does here. It says, look at verse 8. But he refused and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master wot not what is with me in the house, and he has committed all that he hath to my hand. So that means my master, your husband, don't know anything that goes on in his house. He probably wouldn't know about this. But look what he goes on. Verse 9. There is none greater in this house than I. No one gets more respect in this house than I do. Okay. Neither has he kept back anything from me but thee. So Joseph is explaining. Yeah, your husband don't know nothing that goes on here. I run everything and nobody is more valued in this house than I am. The only thing that I don't have control over or access to is you. All right, so now look at what he says. He's kept back nothing from me but thee. Why? Because thou art his what? His wife. Therein is the key. All right. So he's seeing that as an important aspect, that not because you were his girlfriend or you were his fling, you are his what?
Wife.
His wife. Important to keep in mind. Look here. How then can I do this great what? Wickedness. And there it is right there. That's the key. What does he call it?
Wicked.
He calls it wickedness. So he's seeing it as a problem, not so much culturally or can I get away with it. It's wicked. He goes on. And sin against God. He didn't say sin against your husband, sin against Potiphar, sin against you. He said what? Sin against God. Therein is the issue. Because see, if you could steal the money and not get caught, you'd be like, ooh, I could do it and get away with it. But do you really? Is it true that nobody knows?
Yeah, somebody knows.
Somebody knows. God knows.
Sees all.
He sees all. And that's the perspective that Joseph has, which is what makes him such a valuable individual in Scripture. It's because he recognizes that, yes, God knows. All right? All right, we good. So, verse 10. And it came to pass, as she spake unto Joseph day by day. Wait a minute, time out. Didn't Joseph already give her an answer?
Yes.
No.
He said what?
No.
He said no.
No.
Did she take that answer?
No.
Oh. So now Joseph not only has to make the right decision today, he's got to make the right decision
Every day.
tomorrow
Tomorrow.
and next week and next month. Because
Next year.
because some days you wake up and you are super Christian. You ever wake up those days? You're like, nothing can stop me today. I got the blood of Jesus on me. I'm moving along, and you're good. People, things come up, man, and you got faith oozing out your ears, man. You just got it today. But then you ever wake up some days and you be like,
Not today.
I don't know, you ain't feeling it. You ain't got the Spirit of God flowing on you. Ain't got your halo going today. It ain't polished. You ain't got faith coming out your ears. You just got earwax. Nothing really is working, emotionally or spiritually. And then you get tempted with this day by day. All right?
So is that why that scripture say the spirit does not always thrive with man? You ever remember reading that one?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like that because there are people that are just the opposite of what Joseph is. See, Joseph is being tempted day by day, whereas the Spirit is what? Calling to you what? Day by day. But there will come a time when the Spirit will what? Stop. We're going to see that when we get to Exodus with Pharaoh. God's going to try to work with Pharaoh and show him something, but then after a while, God's going to be like, he's going to stop. And God's going to what? Harden Pharaoh's heart. Because I'm done. That's why, because the Spirit does not what? Always. Right. And that happened in Noah's day. Coming to the ark, coming to the ark, coming to the ark, coming to the ark, coming to the ark. Boom, ark is shut. They're done. Right? You can't come in now.
Doors closed.
Oh, it's starting to rain. I want to come in. No, you can't come in now. You had it.
You had more than enough time.
You had more than enough, exactly.
He preached 121
120 years, exactly.
That's long enough.
So she spake to Joseph day by day that he hearkened, and he hearkened not unto her to lie by her, or to be with her. Either one. Hang out with me or lie with me. Be with me. So, he said, well, aren't those the same? They could be, but then they could be it's a little different. Well, let's hang out. You know what? We don't have to, I'm not asking you to come to bed with me. Just come have dinner with me. Come be with me. You got to be careful with that too.
Because the Bible says you don't put fire in your bosom.
You don't take fire into the bosom. So he would not lie with her, nor would he be with her. All right? Because we're going to find out what happens when you happen to be with her. Because by chance, by accident, he ended up what? Being with her in a what? Isolated place. And that's how all this happens. So you got to be careful with that. Because see, the devil don't care whether you do or not. He wants to make you look like, because he's the what? Accuser of the brother. So I just need to be able to accuse you and make it stick. And that's what's going to happen here. All right, so verse 11. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business. He's going into the house to do what? His business. And there was none of the men of the house there within. Everybody else was what? Gone. I wonder why. Now, okay. See, now the Bible don't say that. I'm surmising.
Right.
But because this woman ain't stupid either. All right. So she's sitting. Y'all get out of here. I know Joseph comes in here at 6 o'clock every day, tries to do his. You get out. You get out. You get out. You get out. She's in there what? And when he comes in to do his what? Business. None of the men were there. And verse 12, and she caught him. All right. So now she did what? She laid a trap. You don't want to do it by willing? I will trap you. All right. By his garment, and saying, she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. And he left his garment in her hands and fled and got him out. So he did what? He ran.
He ran outside.
All right, because he knew, number one, this woman, she ain't playing. She's for real. She ain't like giggling and she's for real. All right, and so and that's the thing. You don't play with people that have real purpose. If you're not trying to be part of that same purpose, you get out, and that's what he did. I'm out of here. I'm not playing with this. But she also knew something too. It's either going to happen, or I'm going to pretend it happened. And she grabbed his garment. And it came to pass, and we're going to talk about his garment here in a minute. It came to pass when she was, let me see what he just said. It came to pass when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and was fled forth. She called unto the men of the house. So now all the men that she may have sent out, she's now what?
Calling them back.
She's hollering and screaming. And spake unto them, saying, see, he hath brought in an Hebrew. Wait a minute. Pause. Did you see that? Look what he said. See, he hath brought in an Hebrew unto us. Who's the he here? Did he talk about? The husband. She's now also implicating and putting a problem or blame on who? On who? My husband, the guy that's supposedly running the place, brought this Hebrew in here. So you can see she don't have a whole lot of care. See, it ain't a good thing if you married, gentlemen, and you got a wife that don't care for you. You're gonna need much prayer, much prayer, because let me tell you, I mean, and vice versa too.
Yeah.
You know, but God help the man whose wife don't really care for him, because, and you can see, so she don't care for Potiphar. See, he have brought this Hebrew in to mock us. And he came in unto me to lie with me. She said he came in to lie with me, but what is she doing?
Lying.
She lying. She lying about him lying on with me. So that little funny semantic out there. And I cried with a loud voice. She did cry with a loud voice, but she's crying a what? A lie. And it came to pass that when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he fled. No, he fled before the cry. He fled the minute you what? Grabbed him. Right? And left his garment with me and fled and got him out. And she laid up his garment by her. She kept the what?
The garment kept it.
Until the Lord came home, until the husband home. So now we can, go back to that thing. He's not where? He's not there. All right. But then he comes home, and she spake unto him according to these words, saying, the Hebrew servant which you have brought unto us came in unto me to mock me. And it came to pass that when I lifted up my voice and cried, he left his what?
His
garment with me and fled out. All right. Joseph is being implicated by what evidence? The garment. When did somebody else present a garment that Joseph had? The brothers. They took his garment and they ripped it up and dipped it in some goat's blood and then presented it to Joseph. I mean to Jacob and said, "Is this your son's or not?" To make Jacob think of something that's what? Not true. The garment is a lie. The garment evidence is testifying a lie in both situations because of who's presenting it and what they're trying to say by it. Everybody knew that Joseph wore that garment while he was there in Pharaoh's house, in Potiphar's house, and they knew that was his. And the wife said, "Well, that's the evidence." And the brothers knew that the father made this garment for him, and they took it and they said, "Well, we're not going to say anything. We're just going to dip it in blood, rip it up a little bit, and give it to the father. Let him come to his what? Own conclusions." All right. So in both times, the garment was taken. The garment was also taken off of somebody else. Our Lord. And what did they do with the garment?
They sold it, right?
They
ripped it.
Some of it they ripped, and then they had another garment that was too good to what? To rip, and they cast the what? They cast lots for it. They gambled it. So the garment, and you can see here, is a thing that is used for a lot of malice, and so in this case, it's used as evidence to produce and bolster a lie. All right. So verse 19, and it came to pass when his master heard the words of his wife. Now I'm going to read this and follow along with me, see if I read it wrong. All right. So the master, the captain of the what? Of the guards. Okay. This is the man that knows how to take care of criminals and stuff like that, right? The master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, after this manner did thy servant unto me, that his wrath was what? Kindled. And he had Joseph put to death. Does yours say that?
No.
Well, wait a minute. Wouldn't that normally be you gonna mess with my wife? Wouldn't that normally be a what? A death sentence. You get put to death.
No,
That's not what happened, though, is it? Let's see what happened. What happened? Look at verse 20. And Joseph's master took him and put him in the prison, and placed where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. So he took him and put him in prison. But wait a minute, go back and read that last sentence in verse 19. It says that his wrath was kindled. When he heard the story, his wrath was kindled. So he was extremely upset.
yes.
But then a man that was extremely upset took Joseph and just threw him in prison. A man usually that his wrath is kindled like that, brother, you got to die.
You gotta go. Take
So
it out.
now I'm kind of surmising again.
Paraphrase.
What do you think is happening here?
He really didn't believe her.
He knows.
He knows his wife, don't
knows
he?
Yeah,
his
he
wife's
knows his
character
wife.
and he knows
And he
Joseph's
also
character.
knows Joseph.
And he knows Joseph.
But he had to do something.
He had to
do something.
Why?
He
Because
had to save face. Because
Exactly.
of what his wife said.
his wife said this. She had the so-called evidence. He couldn't prove it. He wasn't there.
Right. So he had to do something.
I said, I can't just say, well, you know what, I don't
It's
believe
okay.
you.
Right.
Because that's going to mess up the circumstances.
Right.
So, I'm not killing Joseph, because I know what I'm married. I know what she tried to do. So I'm gonna throw you in jail, but you're going into jail where the king's prisoners go. I'm not throwing you,
Not regular.
not those crazy prisons. You're going into the one where the king's guards go, king's prisoners go. All right. So he threw him in jail. All right, instead of killing him. So he's sitting there in jail. Look at verse 21. Now here's the thing. All this that happened to Joseph. Look at what happens in verse 21. But the Lord was with Joseph. Now, in this instance, we do get a but. Before we got a and the Lord was with Joseph. This time we got a but, because this is something that is bad. He's been lied on and accused of something that what? He did not do. And that's never fun. It's never. So there you do get you got a right to feel a certain way, but the Lord is still with you. It says, but the Lord was with Joseph and showed him what? Mercy. All right. So that means that mercy is where I kind of get my thinking that Potiphar probably knew and was merciful to God. Why? Because of God. All right. And so he was not put to death, but he was thrown, but showed mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. So now he's in another circumstance. See, before he was a slave. Now he's a prisoner. So you think, oh man, I'm a slave. It can't get no worse than this. Yes, it can. You went from slave to prisoner. All right.
But still putting you in charge of everything.
But you get there, and then what? God is still with you. He says, God is with you. Look at verse 22. And the keeper of the prisoner committed to what? Joseph's hand all the prisoners. So now Joseph is what? Running the prison.
Prison.
He's the warden of the prison. He's the prisoner running the prison. So everybody's like, every time Joseph gets around, I get to get paid. Really don't got to do anything. I get to do, say I do my job, but I can go hang out now because Joseph got it going. He's running everything. All right. So committed to Joseph to Joseph's hand all that the prisoners that were in the prison, and whatsoever they did there, it was the doer of it. So whatever needed to be done, Joseph was the one that was doing it. 23. The keeper of the prisoner looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him, and that which he did, the Lord made it to what? Prosper. So anything that was going on down in that prison was one of the best run prisons now. Why? because Joseph was there. Okay. Now we're going to stop there. And on next week, Lord willing, we'll pick up on verse 40, and we get to see how things are going for Joseph while he's there being a prisoner in the jail. But you get to see, and for me, it's very instructional for me to try to find that positive connection with God when I happen to be in circumstances that don't seem like, well, this is not favorable. This is not what I want. I want to be better financially. I want to have a better family. I want to have better health. I want to have a better job. I want to have a better surroundings or culture or neighborhood or nation or country. I want all that to be better. But that don't stop the fact that God is what? With you. All right. I want things to go well. Who doesn't want things? Who wants to wake up tomorrow and say, I wish I have a bad day tomorrow? Nobody wants that. We all want to have a good day. We all want things. But then we got to also remember that when you do wake up, and it is a bad situation, it's not a good day, God is still what? With you. And that's what makes any day a good day. I used to have a thing at my job that I had on the wall. It says, God is good even on a bad day. And you always got to try to, and that's something that I have to make sure that I try to incorporate in my attitude, because see, when you're having a bad day, you can have an attitude.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You know, you can be, ready to tell somebody a piece of your mind type of thing.
Absolutely.
And so the struggle then comes, can I have a bad day and know God is still good and act accordingly?
Mm-hmm.
And be able to be like, you know what? Because you can be on the highway, somebody can cut you off. Do something intentionally awful to you. And you be like, you know what? I'm going to still have a good day. Though something bad just happened. Something wrong just happened. Somebody at the job just lied on me. Somebody. You still got to take care of business. You still got to handle it. Joseph still had to deal with it. He still had to be confronted by Potiphar. He still had to go thrown into jail. He got the demotion. Wow, I was a slave and now I'm a what? I'm a prisoner. Well, wait a minute. Before that, I was a son. Then I got sold, a slave, and now I'm a prisoner. So we're gonna see where he goes from being a prisoner to being what? He's gonna move again.
Yeah.
But this time he's gonna be moving someplace
Higher.
way higher. All right. So it's almost kind of like when you're planting seeds. If the seeds develop roots that grow up and out, well, that thing may grow up, but it ain't going to grow up high, and it's not going to last through what? Any kind of storm or any kind of hot weather. But if the seeds take the root and grow down, the further down you go, and then once it finally stops going down and begins to go up,
stronger it gets.
now it's something that cannot be moved. And that's kind of like what's happening to Joseph. He went from being with his father to being with Potiphar to being in the prison. He's going down, down, down. He's just getting deeper. And sometimes we have to recognize God's trying to dig you a deeper root system, and you're resisting it.
Yeah, yep. That because see that all reminds me just like when I was in the room, they say, Wayne, you're never gonna stop till you hit bottom. You gotta hit bottom to stop.
Right.
To where you just can't take no more.
And when you get to bottom, then okay, I can't get no lower. Now it's time to go up, and that's when a real strong, stable plant Recognize I don't went as far as I can go down. Now it's time to go up. And then when you go up, now I'm up, I can handle the storms. I can handle the wind. I can handle the snow. I can handle the
Just
heat.
Keep my head above water.
That's it. You can do all that. But you got to be willing to go down deep.
Right.
You allow the Lord to take you there.
I try
But-
to say that to my son and my nephews. I say, as a man, you gotta know how to fall before you come back up. You can't sit at the top, because guess what? Every empire fell.
Right.
That's true.
I say,
Right.
there's only
Just
one
like,
empire that hasn't failed yet. We're living in
they
the
say, the
new.
same people you see going up, same one you'll see coming down.
That's right. That's it. I'm laughing because when you say that, I think about the honeymooners. I don't know if you remember Ralph said,
Oh, yeah.
the time when he thought he was moving on up.
Yeah.
He found that thing of counterfeit money. And he goes, I'm going to be nice to people because the same people you meet on the way up, you're going to meet them same people on the way down. And he found that suitcase full of counterfeit money, man, and he's just spending it. And he's just spending that money. And his wife is telling him, why don't you wait till you find out where this money came from? And he's like, listen, I'm good. And then when he finally found out it was a millionaire, he was a millionaire for a day, found out it was counterfeit, he told his wife, his wife says, now what you going to do? He goes, what do you mean what I'm going to do? I was a millionaire for a day. That's more than anybody else in this dump can say.
You felt the highs and the highs, you went right back to reality.
Man, that thing cracked me up. He go, what do you mean? I was a millionaire for a day. That's more than anybody else in this dump can say. That thing used to crack me up, man. But anyway, let me get off the honeymoon. So, Lord willing, on next week, we'll pick up on verse 40. Any other comments or questions?